Hi, I'm Ralph Preston and welcome to another Roadmap. I'm here again with William Lowe, and tonight we're going to talk about why it's important to break down an exercise and how this can help you see more changes in your stroke recovery. William, this came up in one of your live sessions. I know you have some thoughts on it, so why don't you start us out?
Yeah. So ever since my journey after stroke, I've exchanged notes with a lot of stroke survivors, and I picked the brains of a lot of therapists. And now that I'm coaching stroke survivors and being paid to do that, I've learned a lot of things. And one thing I've noticed over the years in my stroke recovery, working with stroke survivors, helping them out, is that a lot of stroke survivors, when it comes to their recovery after stroke, they don't follow a step-by-step process when it comes to tackling their recovery. And in other words, what I mean when I say this is that there are a majority of stroke survivors who believe that there's one or two exercises that can help them get to the promised land or help them reach their best recovery. And while this is great to hear, it's simply not true. And the reason why following a step-by-step process in recovery after stroke is important is because following a step-by-step process and really thinking about how you used to do something before your stroke and really correcting what you're currently doing to match how you used to do something. That's really important because it can really help you identify what you're currently doing and how it might not be helping you to get towards where you want to go in your recovery after stroke. So for example, what this might involve might be looking at how you're currently doing an exercise or currently performing a movement, looking at what you can't do so well in that movement, and actively working on that component of that exercise or that movement and making it better so that your brain can actually connect the dots a lot better when it puts together everything it's learned, and you're able to perform that exercise a lot better. So I guess that's a pretty abstract explanation, and I'll just provide an example of this. So, for example, if you're thinking about tying shoelaces, which is something I was having a discussion for another stroke swab about the other night, there are various steps to go about tying shoelaces, and if you were to break down tying shoelaces into many steps, you might notice that as a stroke swabber that you might be getting stuck at the point where you're trying to grip the laces and you're trying to tie the laces together with your unaffected hand and with your affected hand holding it. So this is the aspect of the movement or the exercise which you have to work on in order for you to actually see more improvements in how you're able to tie your shoelaces. So I think when it comes to recovery after stroke, if you can adopt a step-by-step approach, really thinking about how you're doing the exercise, what you're currently doing in the exercise, which is not so good, which could be changed, which could allow you to actually improve how you do the exercise. This can actually be really beneficial in your recovery after stroke because it can help you give yourself an indication of what needs to be worked on in order for you to actually make more progress in your recovery. So I was just wondering if you had any notes on this, Ralph, and I'll just pass it to you now.
Well, tying your shoes is complicated. It involves both sides. Um, I guess first off, I would say that I think it's really important to learn how to observe. If you're not a real detail-oriented person, I think you're going to find that if you learn how to observe and pay attention to details, that'll help you in your recovery because it'll help you be able to break down a task or in terms of observation, you can teach yourself to see the parts and see what's going on. If you can't teach yourself this, then you might consider doing something like asking your therapist the next time you're in physical therapy to observe it and see if somebody else can break it down. If you do that, pay attention to what they say and how they figure it out, because eventually it's always good if you can learn these skills yourself. Tying shoes is complicated. A lot of times, if you want to know what this hand or body part should be doing or what it should look like, you can go to the other side, the teaching side and the healing side. Let's see, what else? This is a technique. I don't know. I was going to say it seemed to work more in the as you got better at a task. Sometimes I find that if it's something you're getting close to, or you can't see, like when I was doing my hair, now I got it. When I was learning to tie my hair back, sometimes I'd close my eyes, or most of the time I'd close my eyes because I can't see what's going on, and that would help me deal with the tactile part and thinking about the proprioceptive part of where my hands are and how they have to flip the rubber band around and pass it back and forth from hand to hand. And I found that I was talking with a physical therapist friend the other night, and he said, we were recording, and he said, well, hang on a minute, I'm going to do a few with my eyes closed, and they were better. One of the things he was doing was hitting stuff with a hammer. And you'd think that that would not be good with your eyes closed. I don't really want to get into proprioception, but the point here is that when you shut out the visual stimuli, sometimes you can do a task better. But first, you got to learn how to observe it and break it down, see where the problem is, and see if you can fix the problem. That's in the case of a complex thing. Or even like with the pegboards. In my pegboard video, I talk about just putting away most of the pieces so you don't get overwhelmed, learning how to pick them up and drop them, learning how to pick them up oriented, learning how to take them in the palm of your hand and work them back out to the fingertips before you ever try and put them in. You got 3 or 4 stages. So one more thing, I'll turn it back over to you. If you break things down, a lot of times you have more success. And I've said it a million times, success builds on success. So if you note some little improvements, then you're going to be motivated more to keep going than if you don't figure it out, keep hitting your head against the wall, get frustrated, and quit. So what do you think, William?
Yeah, definitely 100%. I think, just to emphasize and really underline what I mentioned earlier about really taking on a step-by-step approach to recovery after stroke, I think that goes hand in hand with being observant with how you're actually doing something in your recovery. Say, for example, if you're trying to teach your brain how to pick up a pen in your recovery after stroke, and you notice that you're dropping the pen, it might be because every time you're picking up a pen, your thumb is coming in like that, rather than meeting your index parallel to the pen, which allows you to not be able to get such a good grip on the pen. So rather than you being able to pick it up like that, you end up dropping it because you're using too much force with your thumb, because your thumb tends to go in like that. And that's just one example. But that really gives you an idea that the reason why you can't pick up a pen, if that's something you're working towards in your recovery, is because your brain currently is using too much effort to flex down the thumb. And that's actually a component of the task or the exercise, which you need to teach your brain to not do as much of, so that you can actually successfully pick up the pen. And in this case, what that would mean is not touching the pen, but rather teaching the brain how to actually flex down the thumb correctly, such that it's not bending in like that and it's compromising your performance and ability to pick up the pen, but such that you're teaching the brain how to flex the thumb down like this, and doing that over and over again until it's conditioned to do that naturally, such that you can go back to the pen and be able to pick it up without having your thumb want to bend in like that, and you not be able to actually pick up the pen and lose grip of it. So that's just one example of breaking down a task. And I think this not only applies to that pen example, but just every exercise which you do in your recovery after stroke, whether this be going up the stairs in your stroke recovery. You might notice that your affected leg is lagging behind your unaffected leg, which might be a sign that you're putting too much weight on your stronger leg versus your affected leg. And in this case, that's an indication that you need to work a lot more on putting the weight on your affected leg versus the non-affected leg. Now, if you want to get good at breaking down a task and really thinking about this and mentally rehearsing it, one thing I do recommend is actually taking video and actually filming yourself doing the exercises which you were given by your physical therapist. And as Ralph said, maybe having a discussion with them around, how you're doing the task or how you're doing a particular exercise and what part of the exercise needs to be refined a little bit more so that you can actually perform that exercise or perform that movement a lot better and actually start to see more changes in your recovery after stroke. Because in recovery after stroke, there's no such thing as one exercise which is going to help you get to your best recovery, but rather it's going to be a series of exercises which you're going to do, which are going to teach your brain the foundational movements. And once it develops those foundational movements, you are going to require more exercises to help your brain course correct until it gets to that place where it's able to perform a movement or perform an exercise as well as it used to before you had your stroke. So I guess that's really why it's really important to adopt the mindset of taking on a step-by-step approach in your recovery after stroke and really, I guess, mentally rehearsing how you did an exercise before you had your stroke, comparing that to how you're doing an exercise now, and really identifying where you're getting stuck and how you're currently doing something right now, and working on that step, whether this be that place where you're about to grip the pen or when you're going upstairs or going downstairs, like I mentioned, so that you can actually start to see more improvements in your recovery after stroke after you've started to go on to work on that specific component of the exercise or that movement which you're currently working on. Now, I know, Ralph, you have some thoughts around taking film and really recording yourself doing exercises in your recovery after stroke. As you have a history in video, I was just wondering if you had any thoughts around this and I guess the benefits of what video can do for a stroke survivor.
Sure. First, I'm going to just say a little bit about figuring out where the problem is and breaking down the tasks, because then that allows you to work on the pieces. In the very beginning of my recovery, I thought, I guess it's kind of what I call guy thinking. More is better. And I really thought that if I didn't do something completely from start to finish the way it was supposed to be done and broke it down, that I was cheating. And I quickly found that I couldn't, I had a stroke. I couldn't do everything like I used to do. So it became obvious pretty quickly that by breaking things down that you could work on the pieces, and then once you mastered the pieces, then you could master putting them together. In a case of, say, walking, that's pretty complex. What your affected leg has to do to walk pretty close to normal or properly. So there's that. I found it real useful to work on the pieces. Whatever I wasn't good at, I worked there. If I had a bump somewhere or weakness somewhere, if my stroke was making my arm want to go like that, I'd try and work against it. Anyway, on to video. Yeah, I've been a video professional for, 45 years. And it's real useful for analyzing what's going on. It's also real useful for comparing. like week to week or 6 months or a year later. One of the things that we used to get hired to do a lot was, not a lot, but certainly occasionally, was golf swings. Uh, there actually were places at one time where you paid people to video your golf swing, and if there was a good place, they would have a slow-mo camera, or a camera that didn't make the golf club jitter, so you could look at it frame by frame. Another time we videotaped NASCAR pit stops to figure out what was going on. Why was actually Dale Earnhardt. Why Dale Earnhardt was getting out a second faster than everybody else in the race, and we figured it out by looking at it and running them side by side. So, video is a real powerful tool for analysis. If you have somebody else do it, you can get away from yourself. It's hard to see yourself walking. Somebody does a video of you. You can look at it. You can also share it with your physical therapist or somebody else like me or William. I end up looking at a lot of videos of people walking and such, who send them to me to see what they might do. So I'm going to toss it back to you. I'll let you talk about your experience. Oddly enough, even though I'm a video guy, I was probably 8 or 9 years out on my stroke before I ever pointed the video camera at myself. So people are always saying, well, what did you do it like when you were early on in your recovery? I have to remember it because I didn't take any videos, and I would have to say, if I could go back and do it again, that would be a good idea. So the video guy didn't do it, but William started from the very beginning. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you used video in your recovery, having the foresight to do it regularly?
Yeah, sure. So one idea I developed early on in my recovery after stroke is that I came up with the idea that it would be really smart to actually video record everything I did from day one, and really take the opportunity to study the film backwards, so that I could tell myself what I was currently doing wrong and how I could improve what I was currently doing, so that I could see more changes in my recovery after stroke. And I think this is really important, especially for those stroke survivors who are just starting out, because when you're just starting out in your recovery after stroke, it can be extremely difficult to take that first step. And it can also be very difficult to see changes, and also actually know if you're going in the right direction. And I think if you can make it, if you can make an effort to ask someone to take a video of yourself walking, or take a video of you moving your arm or hand, it can be really beneficial, because when you study this film, either by yourself or with your physical therapist, you can actually exchange notes with them, and you can ask them to pick and dissect what you're currently doing when you're walking or when you're using your hand, and how you can improve certain aspects of how you're moving your hand or how you're walking, so that you can work on these individual pieces or components to help your brain actually connect the dots between what it used to do before your stroke and how it can do and replicate the exact same thing now in your recovery after stroke. And I think this is not only will this benefit you in understanding, how your recovery is going, but it can also give you a sense of feedback, and it can also give you a sense of how much you're actually progressing. And like I mentioned earlier, and like Ralph mentioned, it can allow you to observe which parts of a movement or which parts of an exercise which need to be improved, so that you can actually see more changes in your recovery after stroke, and you can actually perform a movement a lot better than you currently are. And I mean, I guess the best way to illustrate this, and I'm a big fan of metaphors, is to sort of think about it like a puzzle. So if you're thinking, so if you've ever done a puzzle, some people always refer back to the back to the picture on the box, while they're doing the puzzle. Whereas other people, they just dive straight in and they do the puzzle. And then you have other people who actually perform the puzzle by working on small different components. And once they're done with those components, putting those together to form the bigger picture of how that puzzle, or in this case, your recovery should look like. And I think that's important because by taking on a step-by-step approach in your recovery after stroke, really taking the time to mentally rehearse how you're currently doing a movement or how you're currently performing an exercise and what could be improved on that exercise or what could be worked on, then this can now really help you identify what needs to be changed or what needs to be improved so that you can actually see more changes in the recovery and so that you can actually know what you need to do in order to head in the right direction and course correct as you go along in your recovery after stroke. Because as we all know, your brain has its own agenda of what it wants to achieve in recovery after stroke, which is basically just rely mainly on the non-affected side to do everything. But when you mentally rehearse and when you follow a step-by-step process and when you really analyze what you're really doing and taking an objective view of how you're doing things, then you really know and then you really have a good sense of direction in what you need to do in order to get the ball rolling in your recovery, and also what you need to do in order to start seeing more changes in your recovery without getting to a place where you're continuously stuck and bang your head against the wall because you've been doing the exact same exercise and you haven't been seeing any changes for months or years. So that's basically all I do have to add. I was just wondering, Ralph, if you had any additional thoughts to that.
Oh, it's just I love the puzzle analogy because if you think about it, most anybody who does a puzzle, one of the first things they'll do is put the edges or border together. And what you're talking about is I have a friend who's actually doing a puzzle right now with different animals, and one's a white tiger, and she's got the white tiger put together, and it's kind of where it belongs. So it's a great analogy to like, okay, my wrist is there, my thumb's not there, but I know the. So you get some of the pieces in place and eventually it'll all come together. Other than that, I don't have much to add except I thought I would do 30 seconds on how to shoot a video of you walking because I see a lot of them, and in the beginning until I started telling people this, I saw all kinds of various videos, some of which were difficult to figure out what was going on because of the way they framed them or how short they were, or they got like so far away from the camera I couldn't see their feet hardly anymore. So briefly, if you're going to shoot a video or have somebody shoot a video of you walking, you want to do it head to toe. I know that your feet aren't isn't a close-up of your feet. If somebody wants to see them, they'll ask for a close-up. Reason you want to do head to toe is, well, I got a friend right now, I told him today, I could see he's walking incredibly, especially for 6 months, but he's actually leaning slightly towards his affected side, and I was watching his hips, and I could see his hips move slightly. So he's got a little bit of what I call hip dip. So you want it head to toe, and it needs to be more than a couple steps in any direction because it takes people a few steps sometimes to get going. Even me at 14 years, sometimes it takes me a step or two before I hit my stride, as the saying goes. Never thought about that one before. Anyway, so I tell people like somewhere between 10 and 20 steps in each direction. It's great if you can get people going away from the camera because then I can watch their heels come up. Watch them from the back, get them coming towards the camera. I can see how they're putting their heel down and if they're rotating off that toe. And then left and right are good. So that's how I think you ought to record a video based on me watching a couple hundred of them at this point. So I guess we'll close this out. William, thanks again for getting together and talking, and we'll see everybody next time.
No problem. Thank you.